Unity was on the agenda because of the war, but now Labour are back demanding the Prime Minister's resignation. We're now joined by Labour's Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Aisha.
Now, Keir Starmer withdrew his call for resignation because of the war. Many people are arguing that the war in Ukraine is going to be even more important over the next few weeks and months. So isn't it now inconsistent for Keir Starmer to be calling for the Prime Minister's resignation?
We've never been in a position before, Aisha, where the Prime Minister has been found to have broken the law while serving in office. But more than that, he lied, and he lied again, and he lied about the lies, both to the public and also to Parliament. He has broken the ministerial code. He has no longer got the moral authority to govern. People made huge sacrifices during the pandemic, and I think quite rightly people feel incredibly let down by this Prime Minister, and it is time for new leadership because Britain deserves better than what we have.
Now, we have changed leader in this country in a wartime, but many of our listeners are arguing that if we were to change leader now, it would create a vacuum at a very dangerous point with the conflict in Ukraine and the cost of living crisis.
Well, I would argue the exact opposite, because the government are struggling to focus on the issues of the day because they've become mired in this saga of lies and cover-up. Take, for example, the use of chemical weapons in Ukraine. Parliament should have been recalled this week so that we could debate and put questions to the Prime Minister on that issue. But the Prime Minister has decided not to recall Parliament, not because the issue doesn't merit it, but because he doesn't want to be challenged on parties. Take inflation, that's risen to 7% today. The spring statement did nothing to help families and pensioners struggling with the rising cost of living, but the government and the Chancellor are too distracted by problems of their own making around their tax affairs, around the parties, to be able to focus on the issues at hand. So we need fresh leadership because this government have lost this Prime Minister and Chancellor have lost the moral authority, but also because this saga of lies and cover-up is making it impossible for them to focus with the laser focus that is needed on the key issues facing us as a country.
Boris Johnson's big selling point has been that he is an election winner. He got a thumping majority in the 2019 general election campaign. Surely it's for the people to decide whether they still want him to be Prime Minister at the next general election.
Well, people will have a chance at the next election to decide whether they want a Labour government or a Conservative government. But you'll know, Aisha, it's not unusual to change Prime Minister during a course of the Parliament. We did it in the last Parliament, for example, when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. But the reason that people are losing confidence in Boris Johnson is because they thought he was one sort of person. They thought that he was somebody who understood and was in touch with the concerns of just ordinary people. And it turns out that actually he doesn't think of himself as being ordinary and somebody that has to stick by the rules. He thinks that rules don't apply to him. And so I think that's one of the reasons why people's perceptions of Boris Johnson have changed so much over the last few weeks and months. Because you remember when this sort of saga started, the Prime Minister said that all rules were followed at all times. And then he said there were parties, but I wasn't at the parties. Then he might have been at the party, but he didn't realise that people are sick and tired of this lying and
sorry, I'm just conscious of time, Rachel Reeves. Now, there's a lot of big issues. There's Partygate. There is the huge cost of living crisis. I mean, you have many criticisms of Boris Johnson, and there are big local elections coming up as well. So Labour should do really well at these local elections. If you don't get a really good result, is that going to raise questions about whether Labour has got a shot at the next general election?
Well, we're fighting for every vote. I was out in my own constituency of Leeds West yesterday and up and down the country campaigning in these local elections. The last time that these local council seats were fought. Labour won more than half of them. So we're starting from a high base in these elections. But, we are working hard to increase our number of councillors and vote and show, importantly, that we're making progress from 2019, where we had our worst election defeat since 1935. And so, we want to show that we're making good progress towards the Labour government that I so desperately want to see. And I think increasingly people in the country, after what they've seen from Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak in the last few months, people looking again at Labour and the offer that we have in terms of the windfall tax on energy companies, not going ahead with the increase in national insurance contributions, but perhaps most of all, the fact that Keir Starmer is somebody with honesty and integrity. And I think most people just couldn't see Keir Starmer behaving the way that Boris Johnson has behaved when it comes to rules.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. We're grateful for your time this morning. That's Rachel Reeves, Shadow Chancellor for the Labour Party.